Let's get more on this story and speak to Halim Shebaya, a Middle East researcher from the Lebanese American University, joining me from Beirut. Halim, good of you to join us. What do you think are the reasons for this cooling of relationship between Saudi Arabia and the US?
Good morning. A number of issues actually have affected the US-Saudi relationship as of late, including obviously Obama's stance when it comes to Syria. More specifically, his non-involvement and his non-intervention to help remove Assad from power, which actually angered the Saudis, who were against President Assad. Also, the nuclear deal, the Iranian nuclear deal, that has as everybody knows, Saudi Arabia was against it, and it was warning against Iran's hostile actions in the region. And also lately, as the report mentioned, the recent interview or the article in the Atlantic magazine of the Obama Doctrine, where Obama seemed to question his relationships with some of his allies, including Saudi Arabia and Egypt. So all these are reasons for tension and why many people are looking at how Obama and King Salman were going to interact together. But obviously also a lot of main issues on the table, the Syria crisis and the Yemen war would be high on the agenda, I would assume.
How crucial is the US to Saudi Arabia to have as an ally?
I think the US needs Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states as allies, especially given that the focus as of late, especially in the last year or a year and a half, has been on countering terrorism, and particularly ISIS terrorism in Syria and in Iraq. And one of the main counter-terrorist talking points or fundamental principles is that terrorism has to be countered by a moderate Muslims who are able to counter an organization that claims to represent Islam, but that actually commits gruesome terrorism in its name. So Obama and the US have a strategic interest in being on good terms with the Saudi Arabia and other Gulf states. On the other hand, of course, they have some demands. They want certain commitments, and as Obama mentioned in the interview with the Atlantic, basically he wants them to actually have more involvement in that war, and he doesn't want to be involved by himself in that sense.
Now, this bill that is being considered in the US to potentially allow American citizens to sue Saudi Arabia over the 9/11 attacks, how big an issue is that going to be between the two countries? I think I don't think anybody's accusing Saudi Arabia as yet to be behind 9/11. I think what the bill was suggested to do was to remove the sovereign immunity that a foreign government would enjoy in front of US courts if that government is proven to have instigated a killing of American citizens. So there was a movement in the press and people were calling for that bill to be passed, but it was passed, I think, in front of one of the committees. But as President Obama, I think, is against the bill and he's likely to veto it, I think what the effect of that is really more on the media and on the PR level, that Saudi Arabia is being painted in a light that it doesn't like to be associated with. It's being associated with 9/11. It's being associated to, some questions about its form of Wahhabism. So obviously Saudi Arabia wants to counter that and wants to show that no, it is an ally in the fight against terrorism. So I think that would be one of the focuses of King Salman and one of the focuses of Saudi Arabia, trying to reassure President Obama or reconfirm that Saudi Arabia needs to be an ally in the fight against terrorism in the Middle East. Okay, Halim, really good to talk to you. Halim Shebaya there, a Middle East researcher from the Lebanese American University.